All right, y'all. So check this out. One of my employees told me, "You're like a dad to me." And around that same time, my old lady was telling me, "Hey, you here, but you're not home." And so that made me sit and think for myself for a little minute because two things can be true. At work, people feel like I'm fully there for them and invested in them, but at home, the people I'm supposed to be closest to feel like I'm drifting away. So that's what this story is about. It's not about me just leaving a job, but it's really more so about what leaving that job showed me about me. So the easy part of all of this was getting another opportunity. The hard part was actually quitting. Well, the hard part was more so telling people that I really cared about, hey, I'm leaving. And the reason behind that, because it for me, it just wasn't any other job. I was a general manager at Urban Air. So if you haven't been to Urban Air, the place is loud, chaotic, like nonstop. It can get very overstimulating real quick. We had go karts, trampolines, laser tag, arcade. We had a cafe, a zip line. Man, we had it all. So on top of running the business, putting out fires, doing this and doing that, I was also leading people, but not just any people, because most of my employees were from 16 to 18. So for a lot of them, it was their very first job. I had to teach them how to do tasks. I was teaching them, how to work, how to communicate, how to show up on time, how to handle conflict, how to deal with work drama, school drama, relationship drama, how's just life, And then when you're in a role like that, especially with young people, you stop becoming a manager like just real quick. It just kind of happens. You become that person, they want to talk to, the steady one, the calm one, that coach that's outside of the home. You actually become a mentor, so you get invested in, what's going on in these kids' life. And there was a big part of me that took pride in that. I really did care about them. That part was real. So the opportunity came my way to be a general manager again, this time except for another company and back in Alabama. So on paper, it made all the sense in the world, better money, better benefits, more consistent schedule, more room for growth, closer to the rest of my family. It was just the right move, period, point blank. Getting the offer wasn't that hard. I was happy about it. I was happy for my family. I was happy because it felt like progress. So I was happy for me. But then the emotions kicked in like real quick. And I already knew where they was coming from. I knew some of my employees was gonna take this decision hard. I knew that this wasn't just gonna be no regular manager move on, one manager out, one manager in type of situation, because I've really poured into these people, and when you pour into people, they begin to trust you, and so when you have to leave a situation, it doesn't always feel clean. Sometimes it feels personal, and that's what I had to wrestle with. Not whether it was a good opportunity, because I knew it was a good opportunity. The real struggle was knowing that the best decision for my family was still going to end up hurting people that I cared about. And that's hard, especially when being needed feels so meaningful. And that's the part people really don't talk about enough. Being needed can feel like a purpose. Being depended on, it can feel like a calling. And if you're not careful, you'll start telling yourself, because they need me, I'm supposed to stay. But that's not always true. Sometimes you're not staying because it's right. Sometimes you're staying because you don't want to let those people down. But by not letting those people down, you're not giving them a chance to grow. And sometimes, if we being real, being needed feels good. But I had to give myself my own reality check because my daughter, my son, my old lady, they needed me more. So then it came time for, I call it the meeting. It was before employee night. I pulled all my leads into the office. Nothing out of the ordinary, because on Friday night we always have a meeting to recap our weekend. I mean, recap our week. How do we prep for our money days, which is Saturday and Sunday? What are we gonna do? Because I had everybody thinking at the time, what can go wrong will go wrong. It's our jobs to be prepared and prevent as much as we possibly can. So we're going around to the circle, like I said, either to my left or my right, then it's my turn. And I had to drop the news. I just went ahead and came out and told them, like, hey y'all, I have a new job opportunity that I'm going to take. And so I only have 3 weeks left before I take that opportunity. So at first, people were happy, congratulations, things like that. But then, they were asking where is it? And I told them the company name and they was like, well, where is that? It says back home in Alabama. My family's packing up and leaving. One of them started crying. The other one fighting back tears. I could see people are congratulating me, things like that. So I ended the meeting, and the one that was fighting back tears, she stormed out, and I gave her a second, but I went to go check on her. She told me that she wasn't angry, she wasn't mad, she was just kind of hurt. And I said, "Well, let's talk about it. What's wrong?" She said, "Because you're like a dad to me." And instantly, I said, like a dad, like not big cousin, not uncle, none of that, just a dad. But we laughed about it and everything. But truthfully, that moment stayed with me because, yeah, part of me felt honored, but another part of me felt exposed because that moment confirmed how much of myself I had given to the job. Not just my effort, not just my leadership, my patience, my energy, my emotional presence, myself. And then that's when my old lady voice hit me again. Hey, you're here, but you're not home. And that line still bothers me so much because I know at the time she was right. I was there physically, but mentally, emotionally, work still had me. Still carrying around employee situations, still thinking through stuff, still dealing with operations. I just never really shut it off. And while I was doing all of this, my daughter was being bullied at school, didn't know it. My son was growing up right in front of my eyes, learning new things, new words. And I was noticing late, like he would say or do something. I would say, hey, look, he's doing this now. And my old lady just kind of shake her head, like, yeah, he's been doing that for about a week now. That stings because now I was starting to realize that I was missing all the little moments in real time. And on top of that, my old lady was battling depression. I was missing that too. So now I got this young employee at work telling me I'm like a dad to her. While the people that I'm actually in the home with that see me every day, they feel like I'm there, but I'm not really there. That's a hard truth to sit with. And that's when it became not about quitting the job, it became more about alignment. Because I started realizing I was spending so much energy on my kids at work that I didn't have anything left over for the kids at home. And they was just getting whatever was left. And that's something I constantly say I'm not proud of. But it's the truth nonetheless. And I think a lot of us live like that a lot longer than we'd like to admit. Sometimes it's even too late when they're ready to admit it, especially people that care, especially people that are in leadership, especially people that are good at showing up for everybody else because work rewards that version of you quickly. People need you. People appreciate you. People lean on you, and it can make you feel important. Meanwhile, your family doesn't always scream for your attention that same way. Sometimes they just slowly get less of you. And if you're not careful, you won't even notice it until it's gone. So for me, it was those two lines put together. You're like a dad to me. You're here, but you're not home. That was my wake up call. So one of the biggest things I've learned from that season in my life is the right decision can still hurt people that you care about. Just because a decision causes pain, guilt, disappointment, sadness, it doesn't mean that you made the wrong decision because good people get stuck all the time thinking that pain means stop. It doesn't always mean stop. Sometimes it means growth. Sometimes it just means that you did make a difference. You matter. Sometimes it means the decision cost something. And if you actually care about those people, of course it's going to hurt. The second thing I learned, being deeply needed somewhere does not always mean that you're supposed to stay there. Now that one is real because some of us confuse being valued with being assigned. We confuse being needed with being called. And those are not always the same thing. Sometimes the place that's pulling the most out of you is a place that's getting too much of you. And that was my reality. Urban Air gave me a chance to lead. It gave me relationships to this day I still value. It gave me real moments I'll never forget. I'm forever grateful for that. But it's also showed me that something was off with me. And leaving, it forced me to face it. So yeah, like I said, the easy part was getting a better job. The hard part was leaving the people that I cared about. But the hardest part about leaving the job, it was admitting that work had been getting too much of me and my family, not enough. And I just didn't need a new opportunity. I need a new alignment. I needed to set new priorities, new boundaries, because being a strong presence at work doesn't mean much at all to the people at home that's getting the weakest version of you. And that's a lesson I definitely had to learn the hard way. So if you're into real stories about work, leadership, growth, family, life lessons, all of that, subscribe, comment what you thought down below. Till next time, this is Building My Legacy.